This is Math 2, Unit 10, Lesson 6, alternate forms of quadratic functions and the zero product property. Okay, this first piece, the alternate forms of quadratic functions, is somewhat review, and so I'm going to go over that now. Standard form and vertex form. We've talked about both of these before, standard form and vertex form. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c is our standard form. Do you guys remember this? Okay, vertex form is y equals a parentheses x minus h quantity squared plus k. Okay, now I've said this before, you may not remember, but I've talked to you about when standard form is really nice and when vertex form is really nice. Does anybody remember when standard form is really nice? When you're looking for something. No one remembers? Y-intercept. If they ask you to find the y-intercept, standard form is the easiest to work with. If they ask you to find the y-intercept, standard form is the easiest to work with, and here's why. I'm going to make one up. Y equals 2x squared plus 7x minus 5. And if I ask you to find the y-intercept, who remembers how you find the y-intercept? I've talked about it. We haven't done it too much. If you're looking for the y-intercept, you make something equal to 0. What letter?
X.
Good job. You make x equal to 0. You should have learned that in years past. Do you guys vaguely remember that? You should have done that on last night's worksheet. Okay, so pencils down. Can anybody do that without any pencil work? Plug in 0 for all your x's. 0 squared times 2, 7 times 0. Add those up and subtract the 5. What is it? Do you guys agree with no pencil work, it's just negative 5?
Yeah.
That's easy. Do you agree? 0 plus 0 minus 5 is negative 5. So your y-intercept would be negative 5, 0, or 0, negative 5? 0, negative 5. Okay. Do you agree if I gave you that and asked you to find the y-intercept, you wouldn't have to do any work, you'd say, oh, 0, negative 5? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Now, could you look at this and say, oh, the vertex is negative 7, negative 5? No, this is not vertex form, so I cannot look at this and say, oh, the vertex is blah, 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 without doing work. What about this one? Is this one really nice when you're looking for the vertex? Yes, thank you. Looking for the vertex. It's right in the title. When you're looking for the vertex, you'd like it to be in vertex form. You could still find the vertex when it's in this form. It'll take more work, but you can still find it. Okay, so let me write this down. If I gave you one like this in vertex form, y equals 3 parentheses x minus 7 close parentheses squared minus 5. Could we look at that and say, oh, the vertex is? Yes, what would it be?
7, negative 5.
Why?
Because the x minus 7 is the inverse, so it's positive 7, and that's the x value, and then that stays the same.
Good. He said the x value is the opposite, so it's positive, and that stays the same. It's negative 5. I put V for vertex. Now, do you think this one would have a y-intercept of negative 5? No, it doesn't work that way. Kids will say, oh, y-intercept's negative 5. That is incorrect. It is not. You cannot look at this one and say, oh, because when you plugged in 0, 0 minus 7 squared is 49. 49 times 3 minus 5 is not negative 5. Can you see that that last number is not your y-intercept? Only when it's in what form? Standard. Questions between standard form and vertex form. They will ask you this question, by the way, on the test. Standard form is nice when you're looking for the what? Y-intercept, but it won't use the word standard form. It's going to look like that. And they'll have this. This form is really nice when you're looking for the what? Vertex. Okay, questions so far? Okay, now what if I gave you something like this? Y equals x squared minus 5. Would you say that's standard form or vertex form?
That's standard.
Standard, vertex. I will tell you this, you can write it either way when it's something like this. What's missing? When you look at ABC, what is missing?
The BX.
The BX. When the BX is missing, it could go either way. You could write it y equals x squared plus 0x minus 5. Do you agree that's standard form? A is 1, B is 0, C is negative 5. Would you agree that this is the same thing as what I started with? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Or I could write it like this. X plus 0 quantity squared minus 5. Is this second one vertex form? Yes. Is this the same thing as the original? Let's check. What's x plus 0? What's 0 squared? And I'm going to take a step back. Let's try again. What's x plus 0? It's not 0. What's x plus 0? X. What's x times, or what's x to the second power? X squared minus 5. Is it the same thing? What if someone else wrote it like this? Is that still the same thing? Does that plus 0 or minus 0 make a difference? Opposite of the inside. What's the opposite of 0? 0. Okay, both of these here have a vertex of what? Opposite of the inside, outside stays the same. 0, negative 5. Okay, so do you agree when you're graphing, vertex form is a nice form to have it in because you know which way to translate right, left, or up, down? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Next one, what if I gave you this? Y equals x plus 3 quantity squared. This one's only one form. Is this vertex? Yes.
So in the first one, you switch the negative or the adding 0 to negative 0 because of switching it.
This one here?
Yeah.
This one here, I was just showing you it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Some kids will write it that way, some kids will write it that way. It doesn't matter because this inside is your right-left translation and it's the opposite, but the opposite of 0 is just 0.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay, so it doesn't matter here. Same thing up here, x squared minus 0x minus 5. It doesn't matter. All right, this one is only one form, and what form is it? It's vertex. So I would have it y equals x plus 3 quantity squared plus what?
0.
0. What's your vertex? Opposite of the inside, outside stays the same. Negative 3, 0. Do you guys agree that is the vertex? Negative 3, 0. What else could this be called if the y value is 0?
X-intercept.
X-intercept. It happens to be. It's not always that way, but this also happens to be an x-intercept. Okay, questions on these two forms. This is always vertex form. This one could go either way, but we like to think of it as vertex form because it's easier. Questions? Okay, next one, y equals x squared plus 6x plus 12. Which one is this, vertex form or standard form? When I have standard form, can I look at it and find the vertex?
No.
I cannot. Right now, we do not have the tools to look at this and say, oh, the vertex is the opposite and the same. No, it doesn't work that way. The best I can do is know the y-intercept. What's the y-intercept for this one? Plug in 0 for x is 12. 0, 0, 12. That's the best I can do. But if I'm asking for the vertex, do we know that just by looking? No. I will tell you right now that we have no tools to do this yet. In our next unit, Unit 11, we will learn how to take this and make it look like this, which is beautiful work. You can take this, do your what's called complete the square, and then it looks like this form and you're ready to graph. Make sense? Okay. questions on this alternate forms of quadratic functions? Okay, this next one we are going to rewrite in standard form. They will ask you this on today's worksheet. Rewrite in standard form. If they're asking you to rewrite it in standard form, which form must it be in originally? It's going to be in vertex. Thank you. Y equals 1/2 parentheses x plus 6 quantity squared plus 3. Go ahead and write that down. Y equals 1/2 times the quantity of x plus 6 squared and then plus 3. And we're looking for this in which form? Standard form. Do I have the tools? We just talked about that. Do we have the tools to make this one up here vertex form? We don't have those tools yet. So the question I just asked is, do we have the tools to make this one here in vertex form? Not yet. Do we have the tools to rewrite this in standard form? That we do. We spent a whole lot of time doing problems like that last unit. I'm going to rewrite it like this. Should I distribute the exponent or write out the base twice? I heard somebody whispered. I'll repeat the question. Do I distribute the 2 or do I write the base twice? X plus 6 and x plus 6, and then on the outside plus 3. Okay, the only difference from this and the last ones we've done, we haven't had the plus 3 before. Do you guys agree that plus 3 is new?
Yep.
But is it that hard to add 3 at the end of your work?
Nah.
Okay, now I've told you guys before, you could distribute the 1/2 first. This is one I would not suggest it because you're going to have fractions when you're double distributing. So what would I suggest you do first? Distribute the 1/2 or double distribute the x plus 6? Double distribute. It's going to work out nicer. If your coefficient's a fraction, I wouldn't distribute it first unless everything divides evenly, which it doesn't here. Can you guys tell me what that is? X squared plus what?
6x.
Plus
36.
36, close parentheses, I forgot my x. If you're doing the, what is this called, the window method, you're doing x and 6, and you're filling it all in. Okay, let's clean up still. What does that give me? 1/2 x squared plus what?
4x.
Plus 12x plus 36, and on the outside of the parentheses plus the 3. Okay, am I ready to add 36 and 3 yet, or is there something else I have to do? Distribute the 1/2 to the x squared, to the 12x, as well as the 36. What's the coefficient here in front of the x squared? What's the number here I don't see? 1. What's half of 1? Do you agree it's just 1/2 x squared? Plus, what's half of 12? So this can become 6x plus what's half of 36? 18. Now that I've distributed the 1/2, can I drop the parentheses?
Yes.
Which means now I'm ready to add the 3. Oh, should I have distributed the 1/2 all the way to the 3?
No.
No. But now we're ready to add. And that's really the only extra step from what we've ever done before. So this gives us y equals 1/2 x squared plus 6x plus what? 21. All right. So they will ask you on today's worksheet to rewrite vertex form into standard form. And as of now, that's the only thing we know how to do. What are we going to learn next unit? How to take this and retransform it back into this. Got it? Questions? Okay. Second piece, the zero product property. Zero product property. All right. This is something you've heard before. We're going to use it though today to help us solve. If A times B equals 0, if I have two factors being multiplied together, A times B equals 0, then What does that say about A or B? One of them must be what?
0.
Do you agree the only way to multiply to a 0 is if one of them is 0? Can they both be 0?
No.
Is 0 times 0 still 0?
Yes.
So can they both be 0?
Oh.
Yes. Do they have to both be 0?
No.
No. Does one of them have to be 0?
Yes.
Yes. One of them must be 0, otherwise it's never going to multiply to 0. The same is true if I'm multiplying 3 factors, A times B times C equals 0. That should be then. Then A equals 0, B equals 0, or C equals 0. Does it matter which one? No. Okay. We are going to solve. Use the zero product property to solve. All right, use the zero product property to solve. Bless you. Okay. Number 1. Negative 5x parentheses 2x minus 7 equals 0. Okay. This is called factored form because can you see they already pulled the GCF out? Can you see that it's factored form? Yes? Okay. I have 2 factors here. It's kind of hard to see, but can you imagine that's your first factor and that's your second factor? Do you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, so think of this as A times B equals 0. If I'm trying to solve for x, one of these must be 0. And only because I want to come back and check this, I'm going to make one small change. I'm going to make this just x minus 7. If you guys will please make that change with me. Okay, are we ready? Now, zero product property states if 2 or more factors are being multiplied together to equal 0, one of them must be 0. Negative 5x equals 0, or x minus 7 must equal 0. And after that, you simply solve. Let's solve this one. What do I divide both sides by? Negative 5. X equals, what's 0 divided by negative 5?
0.
0. Or, what do I get here? What do I add to both sides? 7, and 0 plus 7 is 7. How many solutions did I end up with? 2. X equals 0 or x equals 7. Now, we talked about this a few days ago. If I have a function and I drop the y and put in 0, what am I looking for? If I take the y and replace it with 0, what am I looking for?
X-intercept.
These are your x-intercepts. Does it make sense? If I distribute this, this would be an x squared function, which is a parabola, which means that these two are my x-intercepts. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Which means if you write it like this, I'm perfectly fine. But you might see it like this on a test. Are these two things the same as those two solutions?
Yes.
0, 0 is that x-intercept, and 7, 0 is that x-intercept. You don't have to write it this way, but if you ever see it this way, should you know they are the same thing. Okay. You do not have to always do a check, but we're going to do it for this first problem. I want everyone doing it with me. What's the first solution we ended up with? 0. So negative 5 blank and then blank minus 7. What am I putting in where the blanks are?
0.
I'm plugging in 0. Negative 5 times 0 and 0 minus 7. Negative 5 times 0 and 0 minus 7. What's negative 5 times 0? 0. What's 0 minus 7?
-7.
Oh no, they didn't both come out to be 0. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because when I multiply negative 7 times 0, what do I get?
Yeah.
Did it work? Okay, I need you paying attention.
Okay.
All right. So next one, same thing. What am I going to check this time? X equals what? 7. Okay, negative 5 blank, I'm using this one right here, times blank minus 7. And what are we plugging in this time? 7. Negative 5 times 7, and then 7 minus 7. All right, negative 5 times 7 is negative. That's not 0. Is that okay? Because what's 7 times 7? What's 7? I said it wrong. What's 7 minus 7? 0. And what's negative 35 times 0? Did it work? Those are the only two solutions that will work. No other numbers are going to work but 0 and 7. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. We're not going to check anymore, but I want you to make sure and understand that you can. It's not required, but you can, and that's definitely a way to make sure you have it correct on the test. Any questions? Okay. Next one. 4m minus 5 parentheses 3m plus 12. Okay. Now, this is also factored form, and there's also how many factors here? 2. Just like up here. This one looked different, but is it still 2 factors in both cases? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, 2 factors, 2 factors. So this is also like a times b equals 0. So I do 4m minus 5 equals 0, and 3m plus 12 equals 0. I'm going to let you guys solve those on your own. Add your 5, divide your 4. Actually, I'll do the first one with you. Let's add the 5. 4m equals 5. And what's the next step? Divide by 4. It's a fraction. What does it come out to be? So m equals 5/4. Or let's solve this one. I'll let you do that one on your own. Subtract the 3. Divide. I'm sorry. Thank you. Subtract the 12. Divide the 3. And that one should come out to be a whole number.
-4.
Okay. Did everybody get that? 3m equals -12. Divide, you get -4. So these are my 2 solutions. Does that make sense? Okay. Number 3. Number 3 looks a little different. W squared minus 5w minus 14 equals 0. Can anybody tell me what's different between number 3 and 1 and 2?
Number 3 is not a factor.
Did everybody hear what he said?
Yeah.
Number 3 is not in factored form. In order to use the zero product property, does it have to be in factored form? Yeah, because you need 2 things being multiplied. These are just 3 terms being added. So if it's not in factored form, what do you have to do? Make it in factored form. Do you all know how to factor? Yes, we just did a big unit on this last unit. Spend all this time factoring, and here we are learning how to apply that to problems. What times what is w squared?
W.
W and w. Are my 2 signs the same or different?
The same.
-14. The only way to multiply to -14 is if one is positive and one is negative. Do you guys agree with that? And then list your factors of 14. I didn't give myself much room. 1 and 14 or 2 and 7. I'll let you guys figure it out. Which one's positive, which one's negative. Anybody have it? No one knows?
I think
It's 7's positive.
7's positive and 2 is negative.
No.
7's negative.
Okay. Okay. So 2 is positive and 7 is negative. Will that give me the -5 in the middle? Okay. Now that I've accomplished getting this in factored form, I'm going to put factor first here. Now that it's in factored form, now can I use the zero product property?
Yes.
W plus 2 equals 0. W minus 7 equals 0. Go ahead and solve each one. That one should be easy to solve. There's no dividing, just adding or subtracting. Jason, can you tell me your two solutions? Right here, what would you do to both sides? Subtract 2, and what's 0 minus 2? Be careful, not times, minus. Negative 2? Or, and then this one you would add your 7, so now you have 0 plus 7 is 7. Does everybody see how he got that?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 4. Now here's a different one, similar to 3, but just a smidge bit different. 7n squared plus 16n plus 15 equals 2n squared plus 3. Now, in order to use, yes.
Oh, no, mind.
No, go ahead.
You want me to tell you what to do?
Yes.
Okay, subtracted 2n squared and subtracted 3 to both sides
Can you tell us why?
because they're the same factor. Like this.
Okay, he's saying subtract this over to its like term and subtract this over to its like term. Why?
So that you can factor
So not only I can factor, so it can equal what?
0.
And why do we want it to equal 0?
So you can use the 0 product property.
So we can use the 0 product property. It's not called the 2n squared plus 3 factor property or product property. It's the 0 product property. So ladies, I need you listening. In order to do this, must the equation equal 0?
Yeah.
Is it okay if you start factoring this side right away? No. You want to make it equal 0. So he was correct. He said, now it doesn't matter which way you move things. You want to move it so your leading coefficient's positive. Do you agree I should subtract the 2n squared? Because what would happen if I moved the 7n squared the other way? It would be negative, and we don't want that. Okay, subtract the 3. Where's 3's like term? Okay. Does the 16n have a like term? No. So 5n squared plus 16n plus what? 12 equals 0. All right, we're ready to factor. What are your factors of 5? 1 and 5? That's nice. So it's 1n and 5n. Are my two signs the same or different? Look it up there. It's a positive. So plus plus or minus minus. Okay, and then 12. What are the factors of 12?
6 and 2, 4.
1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4? Okay, now you are going to have to do some checking. It's either going to be 1, 12 or 12, 1, 2, 6 or 6, 2, 3, 4 or 4, 3. Quickly do some checking. We just did a whole unit on this, guys. Okay, he gave you at least at 6 and 2. You find out where the 6 and 2 go because he's not going to tell you that yet. So he told you which ones to use. You figure out if it's 2, 6 or 6, 2. Ladies.
Oh wait, I wrote it different.
It's okay as long as your 6 goes with whatever number it's supposed to go with. Would it make sense for me to put the 6 here? No, because 6 times 5 is 30. So would it make sense to put the 2 there? The 6 there? 10 and 6, will that give me the 16 in the middle?
Mm-hmm.
Now that I factored, and it's in factored form, can I now use the 0 product property? Yes. N plus 2 equals 0, or 5n plus 6 equals 0. Go ahead and solve each one. This one's a whole number, this one's a fraction.
Which one?
This first one's a whole number, the second one's a fraction. All right, did you guys get answers? N equals, when you subtract the 2, is that 2 or negative 2? Or you subtract the 6, divide the 5, negative.
6 and 5.
Perfect. All right, last one. Are we ready?
It's not a unit loss?
No. When you subtract the 6, it's 5, positive 5, so you divide by the positive 5. Okay. Does that make sense? I'm actually going to write this one down, but I'm going to have to get the packets out, so I'll let you guys think about this one. 3x squared equals negative x. I'll start you off. What are you going to do first? Which way are we going to move it, right or left? When I add the x, does the x have a like term? No. So I'm just putting it off on the outside. But I do want to write it in standard form. Which comes first, the 3x squared or the x?
3x squared.
And kids, even in advanced math, struggle with that one. Oh no, how do I factor? Is that a trinomial guess and check? It is not. Who knows what kind of factoring that is? The first one we learned that I told you kids always miss. I heard somebody whisper it. Starts with a G. Starts with a G. The only one that starts with a G. Greatest common factor. There is a GCF. What's your GCF there?
1.
Nope. 1, yes, but we don't ever take a 1 out. I heard somebody say it. What is it? X. Factor out an X, and then it should look similar to the number 1 that we did. Do that now. Factor out an X. Factor out an X. Guys, you're doing what worksheet 6 tonight. It's the first one there. Do you agree that leaves me with 3x plus 1? Yes or no? Yes. Here's my first factor. X equals 0. 3x plus 1 equals 0. Is there anything to solve for here? No. No. So x equals 0. Has anybody done this one yet? Subtract 1, divide by 3. Positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative 1/3. I'm going to erase that and put an or. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes? What worksheet are you guys doing today?
6.
Worksheet 6. Did anybody not get a packet?